I mean, you guys are all there, right? Coming off of a tough one, where you got a chance in the end in a game that, really didn't play particularly well at certain points in the game. But you still in it at the very end. You have a chance to win. And, you got a lot of grit and a lot of toughness. It's tough when you come up, one play short at the end there. I think we told our guys we don't have time to sulk, and you certainly don't have time to feel sorry for yourself because you're jumping right back into the fire this week with a really, really good South Alabama football team. I think they're very talented. I think they're very well coached, and certainly right now you can tell they're playing with a heck of a lot of confidence. In the last 2 weeks and the way they're playing. So, for us, it's man, you got to move on. You got to do it quickly. You got to fix some of the things that you got to do a little bit better. Most of that's really just execute a little bit cleaner than we did. But you better get ready to go give your best this week against a really good team that I think is playing their best ball right now. So, moving on, and you gotta do it quickly.
What did you change defensively from the first half to the second half?
Nothing. It's funny. People talk about second half adjustments and things like that. We played a lot better. And here's the reality. I mean, defensively, for 50 minutes, we played elite defense. There was a 10-minute stretch there in that second quarter. And really, in particular, it was really 3 plays, right? It was 3 explosive plays that you wish you could get back. One of them was a heck of a throw and catch. You live with those. One of them is a missed tackle on a perimeter screen that goes for 50. Those are the ones that you can't give up. And then certainly, the 3rd and 24 that goes for a touchdown, just don't have the coverage communicated that we're supposed to be in there. And you get a guy cut loose down the seam. So, defensively, we felt like we were playing good. If we could just limit those big plays and get everybody on the same page. And we did that in the second half. And really, I thought it was a great effort by our defense all night. And truthfully, you just wish it always comes down to a handful of plays. But boy, if you could have 3 of them back and pick them, you'd feel really good about what you did.
That's just a shutout.
Yeah, you might. You really might.
Looking at not seeing South Alabama play and just looking at their scores and who they beat, it's kind of hard to figure out. Like when they play really well, what is it that they're doing? And when they haven't played as well, what's been the issue from what you could see?
Well, explosive plays, or they do a really good job on offense. And I said this, someone had asked me, and I said this, and got a mess here. Sorry about that. I mean this as a compliment. What they do on offense it's really just sound football. Like they are not trying to reinvent the wheel. It's not gimmicky stuff. I mean, they're multiple in the run game. They have a variety of schemes that they're going to run. They put really good RPO conflict plays on the perimeter, and the quarterback, who is a veteran, makes really good decisions. And then now you go to the receivers they have out there, right? Between the Lacey kid and number 12, those guys are trouble with ball in hand. And so on offense, they're really, really sound. The games that they've played really well in, those sound plays hit, and then all of a sudden it's bang, it's an explosive, and then they're really rolling. So limiting explosives is going to be big. They're hard to shut down because they are so sound in the way that they do it. But the games that they've played really well offensively, I think the explosives have been huge. Now, you look at that on the flip side. In those games, they've played great on defense too. You watch the Southern Miss game. I mean, the whole first half, it was almost all 3 and outs, and so they're getting the ball back, and then they're being efficient with the drives. They wear you down. That turns into explosive. So they've kind of shifted the last couple games on defense, and they're playing this really kind of a unique, odd structure. That's a little different, truthfully, than what you typically see, and they're playing it really well. So that has been something I think that's kind of put a little life in their defense as well, and they're playing it really well right now. Obviously, I mean it's 110-10 in the last 2 games. So you're playing a team that's as hot as anybody that you're going to play.
When you guys are facing off against a team that has a tandem that has the potential that they have at the receiver spot, does it pull you out of like what you do base-wise and defensively? Do you have to try to sort of compensate?
You hope not. I mean, a lot of their plays, I kind of keep going back to it. They're going to throw the ball on the perimeter when they should. And what happens a lot of times is these guys press it. They get a good block on the perimeter. You get a missed tackle, and it turns into a big one. It's just they're going to get some yards. Like, those receivers are good players. That they're going to get the ball. They're going to get yards. You can't let the doubles turn into home runs, and you can't let the singles turn into triples. You got to try to get them on the ground, which is easier said than done, but you can't lighten the box against these guys because they have a really good 12 personnel run game, and they got two backs that are running the ball really well right now. So you can't just loosen everything up. It's kind of, maybe it's a little easier when it's all one way or the other, but they're really balanced.
Speaking of their sound game in the red zone this year, they are perfect with, I believe, 22 touchdowns. How do you kind of prepare to kind of minimize or kind of prevent anything from happening within the 20?
Yeah, hopefully you try to keep them out of there. But yeah, I mean, like I said, it's just when they get down there, they've got a good scheme. They run the ball down there really well, and I think that's kind of excuse me, that's the hardest thing. Whenever you can run the ball in the red zone, well, you don't really turn it over as much, right? And you keep this thing moving forward and chipping away at it, and they do a really good job of that. So I mean, you just you got to get the ball down. You got to try to force them into field goals, which they've got a really good field goal kicker as well. But that's the key is you just got to try to, number one, you try to keep them out of there. But then once you get them in there, you got to tighten up. You got to play better in the run fits, and you got to try to get the ball down. You can't. I keep going back to it. It's like a broken record, but the 3-4 yard gains can't fall forward and turn into 8 and 9, and then you're 2nd and 1. And then they have a waist down, they can throw it, which is a problem. And then on 3rd and 1 they have the ability to run it too. So you got to keep the plays. You got to keep the gains to what they're supposed to be, if that makes any sense. You can't miss tackles, can't be out of your gap, and you got to play with some eye discipline in there.
You mentioned of how hot this team is playing right now. What's the number one thing that a team has to do to put out a team's fire early on when you're going against them?
Well, I mean, you just got to stay in the fight. I mean, the last couple of weeks they've jumped out to a big lead fast, and when that happens, it's hard to. It's hard to kind of stay in it, especially the way they're scoring the ball right now. I mean, almost every drive in the last couple of games they scored on. So you got to stay in the fight early on, and you got to get some stops on defense, right, to kind of settle everything down. And then offensively, you got to put some drives together and go get points early to really try to keep, that's kind of the thing. The last couple of weeks, it got out of hand really fast, and they just kind of kept their foot on the gas. So, you certainly got to start fast on both sides of the ball, and special teams included.
After looking at the film, the issues of the lack of rhythm in the first half on offense, was it more complicated than you thought, or more of what Georgia State was doing, or was it kind of what you thought Saturday night?
No, it's just the way I felt. It's, we'd been really efficient in the pass game too, and we were just a little bit off everywhere, and it was just kind of like, I mean, how many balls were kind of like right off the hands, that. It wasn't a great throw, maybe, but maybe it's catchable. It was just kind of a lot of those things. And in the run game, it was kind of the same deal. Like just kind of we were a little bit off on the ID. You had two guys working, maybe to the backside backer instead of front side, or vice versa. It was just some of those things that. And look, I mean, there's always. There's a couple third down calls, that I didn't put Z in a great position there. I mean, they brought a pressure that I knew they brought. We're in a protection where you got 5 out, and they bring it and put them kind of in a bad spot. So there's, told the team, told the staff, there's plenty of blame to go around here. But really for the most part, I mean, it was just we just didn't execute, like we did the first 6 weeks offensively, and that was something that. We just done a really good job. Even, maybe didn't have a great drive, whatever the case may be. We were still kind of going, everybody's going in the right direction. We kind of had everything going. Maybe the other guy made a play, or maybe, we fell a little bit short, but it just wasn't clicking like you want it to. And, you go back to things. I mean, we practiced great that week, though. It felt really good about it, put together a really good week of practice. It really sucks when you prepare like that. You really just feel for the kids, because God, man, they prepared really well. We just didn't quite play the way we wanted to.
Saturday night hurt, obviously, and it's looking ahead, but to win the West, you got to beat South, you got to beat Troy. You would have had to beat them anyway, regardless of what happened on Saturday. Do you push the fact that the West is still there for you to take?
Well, of course. I mean, of course. Yeah, I mean, there's still, like, you know, we're sitting here and, you know, you're 2 possessions away from being like right where you want to be in conference, but you can't go back and change them. You know, all you can do is just kind of keep moving forward and correct those things to help you in the next one. I mean, yeah, we're going to have to play this game this week regardless, right? So we score a touchdown on the last drive and we win there at the very end. This game that we're playing this week ain't any easier. You know, I mean, it's not, you know. So, yeah, I mean, it's everything that we've talked about in the West. I mean, it's still there. You just, you know, we talked about it. It's a playoff type of mindset, you know. I mean, the last 5 that we got here are all Western Division games. So there is no room for error. We know that. And I think we play best when our back's against the wall a little bit. So, you know, that's kind of where we're at. And, I mean, yeah, it hurts. It stings. But, I mean, I told them in the locker room after the game, we don't have time. We don't have time to sit there and feel sorry for ourselves. Yeah, I mean, you know, of course, you know, it sucks right now in the moment. But, I mean, I can promise you on Saturday when we go down there to Mobile, they don't care how we feel about it. You know, we better go be ready to play.
What are you looking for from Zion that you know, to bounce back from you know, that's the last play he played that game? How do you kind of, are you in his mind, or do you see what kind of guy he's going to be moving forward? Like, are you worried about his, I guess, makeup throwing that last interception?
I tell guys this all the time. I've turned the ball over. I've fumbled more, thrown more picks than they're ever going to throw. All right, so, you know, it happens. All right. He just needs to go back to the basics. And that's what I told him, you know, yesterday when we went out there. I just want you to go back to the fundamentals, right? The right drop every time, footwork right on point, make sure our eyes are in the right spot, we're progressing the right way, and just go back to playing that way. You know, I mean, I think he's thrown the ball really, really well, you know, this year so far since he's been in there. You know, when you throw the ball and you need to throw the ball, and we're going to have to throw the ball moving forward. I mean, you still got some really good teams left on this schedule. You just got to go back to the basics and fundamentals. And, I mean, it's never one person, you know. As the quarterback always gets entirely too much credit and always way too much blame, you know. I mean, that's just the nature of the position, and, I mean, that's just how it is. But, you know, he did some really good things in that game. Some things that he'd like to do a little bit better. We need him to do a little bit better, but we can help him too, you know. I mean, everyone around him, myself included, we can all help him. And I just need him to go back and let's go back to the basics. And he needs to go be him and go play his game and have fun doing it because, you know, that guy's got a bright future. And we're certainly not going to let one play or one game make us feel any differently about him. I mean, you know, that's not the way the world works. That's not the way football works.
What do you like about him in this spot? This is going to be his first, you know, Sun Belt Conference West Division game on the road, a start for him. What do you like about him in this spot? Well,
I mean, I think he started plenty of games for us now. I mean, it's a big game because it's the next one. You know, I always love when your quarterback's coming back off of a game that he didn't play the way he wanted to. I love it. I mean, that's where you want it to be. And so, you know, I expect him to bounce back. He had a good night last night, good look in his eye. He was back, you know. He's coachable. You know, you talk about the things that we got to do a little bit better. And, you know, one thing I know about him is he's going to do it better. And, you know, the moment's not going to be too big for him. He'll go out there, he'll go play well, and he'll give us a chance on Saturday.
It's kind of off subject, but have you had a chance to look into James Madison, and what's your opinion of him?
I mean, I've seen them on tape a little bit. Yeah, I mean, I think they're pretty damn good. You know, I mean, they're really good. You know, defensively, their defensive front is their front sevens is really good. I mean, you know, they stop the run. I mean, Marshall had -6 yards rushing. I mean, Marshall runs the ball. You know, I know they're throwing a little more this year, but I mean, we know the type of team that they are. We've played them, you know, 2 years in a row. Yeah, I mean, they've got a great front seven. I think offensively, I like the way they play offense. You know, that they're 11-12. They've got good skill on the outside. Their quarterback this year is a problem. I mean, he throws it well, and he he's hard to get on the ground. You know, there's a couple times it looks like they've got him kind of zeroed in there, and he's out of it all of a sudden. Yeah, I mean they're a damn good football team, and Coach Signetti, you know, I've gotten to meet him over the last couple of years. I think a lot of them. I've heard a lot about him from other people that have worked with him that know him personally. I mean, he's a really good football coach. They've got a good staff over there, and they've got a talented roster. I mean, they've got good football players on that roster. Yeah, that's a well put together group.
Do you think they should be able to compete for a conference championship in a bowl game?
No, that's above my pay grade. I don't know the details of all that. I mean, I really don't know a whole lot of details about it.